What is man without fear? War, death, Filipinos, all things warranted to be fearful of. I for one have my fair share of fears, some scarier than others. If what I fear most were to come to life, I would never be seen ever again. That is, Pokemon returning to 2D.
Real quick, some of you guys might have read the title of this video and thought, wow, this guy hates the 2D era Pokemon? I don't? You fucking ape? I know Pokemon fans don't read, they love to match A through dialogue, but can't you at least try to read? Alright, let's start the video. There's been a lot of talk lately about a Unova game being in the works. Riddleku, who, if you don't know, is a leaker who does his leaks in the form of riddles. It's a little bit gimmicky, but I don't really mind because it gets the community excited without everyone getting outright spoiled. His recent riddles have been hinting towards a Unova game being in the works, and honestly, I think it's a little too early for a Unova revisit. Ideally, it would have been during the 10th generation, because that would be following the previous patterns that all the other region revisits have been doing. Maybe they're doing this now because they plan to remake Black 2 and White 2 for Generation 10, because Black 2 and White 2 is also a Generation 5 game. And then, after that, they can go back to the pattern with X and Y in Generation 12. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. An idea that a lot of people have been pushing lately is an HD 2D remake of Black and White, and I really don't like that idea. There's been a few concepts of this floating around on the internet, and oh my god, Game Freak, please don't listen to them! No hate to the people who made these. I'm sure they put in a lot of love and effort into these concepts, but I just don't like it. I don't like it. Seeing these only made me realize how horrible of an idea this would be. Again, good effort to the people who made these. Why do I advocate against the idea of Pokemon returning to 2D so much? If you follow me on Twitter, you're probably tired of me talking about this. Throughout the series, generation after generation, the character models have only gone taller and taller and closer to Ken Sugimura's artwork, and I love that progression. And the thought of them regressing 11 years would just be such a kick in the dick. At least, to me. My dick would hurt, maybe not yours. Looking back at all the other remakes prior to BDSP, they've all used the same art style of the other mainline game from that same generation. BDSP, they just gave us these ugly chunky pieces of shit. And that's not even the worst part of Brilliant Diamond and Shining and Pearl. The visuals are not the worst part of BDSP. It's how little it expands upon Diamond and Pearl. If they were going to do a faithful HD 2D remake of Black and White, they're not going to expand upon the original. Similarly to BDSP, they're just going to be the same games from the DS. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's removing a part of what make remakes so special. And that's, one, giving the games a fresh new coat of paint, and two, adding more content. Fire Red and Leaf Green gave us the Sevi Islands. I don't even like that game. Heart Gold and Soul Silver gave us so much quality of life features. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire gave us the fucking Delta episode. Additionally, in these games, they let us use Pokemon that weren't available in the originals. It was so cool to be able to use a Galvantula in my Alpha Sapphire playthrough. I can't do that in BDSP! They gave us new designs to characters to make the game feel like an entirely different experience from the originals. Look at my boy Morty! He doesn't look like a fucking idiot anymore. All of this extra content that we've seen added to these remakes, and you guys want an HD 2D remake of Black and White that would only be as interesting, if not less, than Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. If I wanted to play a faithful 2D version of Black and White, I would just play Black and White for the DS. I wouldn't be asking for a remake. And you might be thinking, Cage, what do you want for a remake? I can complain about what I don't want all day, but it won't be very helpful if I don't ask for what I want. So here we go. In a Black and White remake, ideally, I'd like them to take a lot of cues in how Oras was handled, like how Megas were added to Oras. I'd like to see terrestrialization in a Black and White remake. I honestly prefer Megas. But realistically, if they were to add a gimmick into a Black and White remake, it would be terrestrialization. I want to see that. Gameplay-wise, I'd want it to play like Scarlet and Violet. I mean, it only makes sense. We're still in Generation 9. I want to be able to be out in the wild and see wild Pokemon roaming around and be able to battle with them seamlessly. Now, some of you guys might be thinking, oh, but since this is running on the Scarlet and Violet engine, won't this run like shit? Nah, I beg to differ. Okay, maybe it still won't run perfectly, but consider this! Scarlet and Violet was an open world game. Black and White is not. It's a linear game. If they make it so that the areas that you're not in are unloaded like every other linear Pokemon game, it would be less CPU intensive, therefore making it better. Scarlet and Violet's code is inherently poopy, but then, this would help. Art direction wise, honestly, I'd love for it to look closer to a Sword and Shield. That game nailed the Sugimori art style. Lastly, just add more content, like a toggleable XP share maybe, and other quality of life features. A Delta episode would be sick, maybe for Meloetta, Victini, Genesect. Dude, Genesect has such a cool design. It should not only be obtainable through a mystery gift. The reason why some people... Where the fuck did that shelf come from? The reason why some people ask for 2D Pokemon to come back is because of the visuals. Obviously, and I didn't have to tell you that. A point that's been made by a lot of these people who ask for 2D Pokemon to return is the fact that 2D Pokemon games were just a lot more colorful, while the 3D games are noticeably more grayer. It's a fair criticism. This issue was at its worst during Generation 6 to 7, but this issue has been somewhat alleviated throughout the years. Kinda. Their progression in improving the colors in the games is kind of like the graph of a heartbeat, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, Legends Arceus, Scarlet and Violet. Regardless, even in the more colorful 3D games, they're still a lot less colorful than the 2D games were, which is, the point. Scarlet and Violet went and tried to go for a more realistic and grittier approach, and I don't think it worked very well. I think they should never do that again. Doing that only made the issue of gray colors worse. That being said, I don't think the solution to this is to go back to 2D. That's such an extreme measure to take, especially if it's just to fix the colors. Wouldn't it be more sensible to ask for them to make the colors look good, make the colors look more vibrant? Like, they don't have to go back to 2D to do that, Sword and Shield honestly have pretty solid colors. Just go back to that and improve from there. Another reason why people want Pokemon to go back to 2D is because of how the Pokemon looked in battle. The main issue being the poses, the idle animations. 2D Pokemon sprites tend to have better and more dynamic looking poses than their 3D counterparts. And while that's something that's improved in Scarlet and Violet, I still think they've got a lot of work to do in that regard. Some people have suggested that the models for the Pokemon are the issue, but I don't think so. I feel like the models for the Pokemon are completely fine. It's just, these Pokemon are just in desperate need of some new idle animations, man. Most of them kind of just stand there when they should be doing a cool stance or something like that. Some of this kind of action, You know what I mean? Once again, they don't have to go back to 2D to do this. They should just be able to do it, man. Just give these Pokemon better poses. Going back to 2D isn't going to magically solve this issue. Here's something I noticed about 2D Pokemon that not a lot of people have pointed out. Throughout the 2D era of Pokemon, Pokemon poses had gotten duller and duller generation after generation. Look at Tyranitar, for example. And other examples on screen right now. Poses for Pokemon didn't suddenly become boring starting Generation 6. This is an issue that's plagued this series since Generation 4. This isn't an issue that's caused by Pokemon going into 3D. This is just something that's happened as time went on. And I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I'm just saying that's the way it is. It's not good. Thankfully, again, in Scarlet and Violet, they are improving some of these idle animations. But again, I still think they've got a lot of work to do. Gotta say, at least 3 Pokemon have attacking animations to compensate for their rather boring poses. That's something 2D Pokemon didn't have. Attacking animations. They just stood there, menacingly. There's also been a lot of cool attacking animations throughout the years, and honestly, I wouldn't want to trade them for slightly better colors and idle animations. And that's where some people might disagree with me. There are 2 sides here. 2 pills. Pick one. Would you rather have actual attacking animations and a dynamic camera, but worse colors and more boring poses? Or would you rather have cooler poses, depending on the generation, better colors, but no attacking animations? I Want both. Yeah, I'm a greedy motherfucker. Come on, Game Freak. I believe in you. You can do it. Just beg TPC for more time between each mainline entry. Seriously, man, can you believe that Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet were released 10 months apart? What the fuck? Honestly, I wish Game Freak or Creatures started outsourcing a lot of their animating work to other studios. Not all of them. Obviously, if they did, then that would mean laying off a bunch of employees in Creatures or Game Freak. Don't do that. That'd be terrible. Maybe get another studio to work on the older Pokemon animations, because doing that yourself on top of animating newer Pokemon and the time span of roughly 2 years will be a fucking nightmare. Let the animators at Game Freak handle the newer Pokemon and let another studio to handle and touch up on the older animations. See, this is why I'm Pokemon's greatest critic. You know, while everyone just sits there and complains without giving out any solutions, I'm out here being more constructive with my criticism. You know, I'm giving Game Freak freaking business advice. Who wouldn't want advice from someone who doesn't know what they're talking about? Lastly, the biggest reason why people want Pokemon to go back to 2D, and I think this is the most valid reason, it's because Game Freak could get away with a lot more in 2D. For example, these overworld character animations in the 3D games, they wouldn't need to do that in 2D. At most, they would just make them jump or spin around. You know, they can't do that in the 3D games. You know, they actually have to animate that. And you already know how tight Game Freak's schedule is. Can you believe that Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet were released 10 months apart? Taking advantage of what they could in 2D was a lifesaver for Game Freak in the 2D era. But now, they can't do that. Additionally, what they've done in the 3D era just has been more ambitious than what they've done in the 2D era. But in spite of that, the time that they're given to complete each game is the exact same as it was during the 2D era. In fact, I think it's shorter. Can you believe that Legends Arceus? So, what's the solution to this instead of going to 2D? Maybe they could you know how Game Freak has 2 development teams? You know, that's how they're able to push out a game almost every year. What if they had a third development team? I don't fucking know, man. The only real solution to this is to lengthen development time. That's what I want. I don't want them to go back to 2D. I don't want them backpedaling like that. I want them to extend their development time. That is what we should be asking for. Not Pokemon going back to 2D, fucking hell. I cannot in good conscience say that Pokemon should have never gone to 3D, like other people have said. Sun and Moon and Legends Arceus are fantastic, and I love Scarlet and Violet. I really do. I love the story, the characters, the lore, the gameplay, the new ideas and concepts brought to the table, but I just can't ignore how abhorrent the game looks, how terrible the frame rate is, how buggy it is. You know, all these issues are caused by the seemingly short development time of this game. A good chunk of the development time was more likely than not spent during COVID lockdown, and even then, TPC didn't even think to like delay it for like even just like 6 months to coincide with the release of Pokemon Horizons. No, it had to be released in November. I'm not gonna lie. It kind of pains me whenever I see someone hate on Scarlet and Violet because I love it so fucking dearly. But I have to understand, and I do, that it's perfectly valid to hate on this game because of how messy of a state that the game's currently in. Visuals are part of an experience, and Scarlet and Violet totally fumbled in that department. Despite that colors are more muddy, the fact that Pokemon poses are a lot more boring, the fact that Game Freak can't get away with more in 3D, despite everything, I don't want Pokemon to return to 2D. I want them to lengthen development time between games. That's the solution. And right now, it seems that TPC is considering lengthening that time, which is great. Feels like this conversation should have been had 10 years ago, but better late than never, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully something can change and that we can see that change in the coming years. Anyways, this is the end of the video. This video was supposed to go up before the August Pokemon Presents of 2023, and it is now September. God damn it. Whatever. Like and subscribe. Share this video with your friends, maybe. Thanks. for watching.